Yanze Khenpo Sodargye Zhao, Donan Molam Khenpo Ngakya. Bangar Dangon Zanto Shirmurdo, Tomba Dikji Janla Gi Shamsar, Nachar Zergi Jagamsar, Jaw Tiki Jano Yila. Jimmy Benzo Zhao Lang Sorande, Gurti Toban Pora Shinjilo.
Profound and subtle Dharma is rarely encountered in eons. Now we hear and follow it. May we realize the Tathagata's meaning. To liberate beings, please generate bodhicitta before teaching. Let's now continue our exploration on the Sigalovada Sutra. Before we officially begin this lecture, there's something important that I need to mention to you. It's mainly about tomorrow's class. Except for those who attended the class in the first half of the year, no one else is allowed to attend. Because we've already been covering this for 2 or 3 full years already, and we've continued up to today. Now only a portion of the group remains, so there's really no point in listening if you haven't been following along. I really hope everyone can cooperate, because sometimes there are quite some people who want to listen to very esoteric teachings on purpose. They try to subtly eavesdrop through other means, but doing so is also without any true meaning or purpose. This is specifically called a transgression, the offense of stealing the Dharma. So it's a transgression and not good for oneself, because esoteric teachings are always protected by Dharma guardians. If you don't properly listen to and receive them, then you might face some issues. It will be detrimental to you both in this life and in future lives. Even if we listened last year or the year before, there may still be some who have broken their vows. For example, if there are serious conflicts among Vajra brothers and sisters, or serious conflicts with the Vajra master, even if you don't speak, or if there are some broken vows, in such cases, it's better not to listen. Otherwise, it might not be beneficial for yourself or for others. It may not necessarily be advantageous for anyone. If all the other conditions are already in place and established, since we have previously received the necessary empowerment and diligently practiced the preliminaries, of course, it is true that there are a few individuals who have not yet fully completed their practice. But these people should also make the aspiration to do so. Those who have quickly completed their practice are already permitted to listen and receive the teachings. Everyone should pay attention to this. Also, it is possible that there may be some individuals within the Vajrayana class who already possess the necessary qualifications for this current year and have successfully completed all of the required preliminary practices. But because the first half of this year is actually a continuation of last year's courses, so it is better not to listen for now. Then, if there are some Vajrayana teachings in the second half of the year or at other appropriate times, we can certainly figure out a suitable way when the opportune time comes. For those individuals who have already completed the necessary preliminaries, as I have previously mentioned, in the near future, for example, the truly magnificent Great Garuda Spreads Its Wings by Shakyapa, and some other related Vajrayana teachings, I have also diligently translated these important texts. In the past, I have had the immense privilege of receiving these sacred teachings many times directly in front of the precious and revered Guru, specifically on 2 distinct occasions, in the land of Tibet and also multiple times within the United States. Of course, during this entire process, there might be some very special cases that arise at that particular time, where receiving the teachings in English could also be considered. This is something that will be relevant for the second half of the year or even later. As for my own personal thoughts and considerations, regardless of whether your foundation is in Sutrayana or Vajrayana, in the past, all the teachings that the precious Guru imparted to us, I hope to be able to pass them on to everyone accordingly. For example, if you are a practitioner of the common vehicles, I wish to transmit all the teachings of the common vehicles to you, and I want to share them all with you. As for the profound Vajrayana teachings, I will also do my utmost best to share the essential key instructions of Vajrayana, and I sincerely wish to transmit all those precious teachings that the revered Guru has diligently taught. However, since life is truly impermanent indeed, and sometimes my own personal health is not always good, sometimes chronic and persistent illnesses have persisted for many, many years. In this challenging situation, I later began to deeply reflect upon my overall health and various other aspects of my life, and I truly don't know how many precious days I have left to continue to remain in this world. Perhaps when the time comes for me to leave, there will be quite a number of teachings that I haven't finished transmitting or translating, and I may not have formally explained absolutely everything in complete detail to everyone involved, but there is nothing to regret about this either. If I were to leave this world, perhaps others would as well. As for everything in this entire world, the things that truly should be done, I have already done my best to set my intention on them. There isn't really much that I truly long for. It's just that certain teachings, some exoteric and esoteric instructions, have not yet been fully translated into a readily understandable form, or have not yet been fully and completely transmitted to every single individual. But this is just a fleeting thought. No matter what the circumstances, all human lives are inherently impermanent. All of us present here should also be very, very clear about this as well. As for myself, I have also tried my best to transmit the teachings that the lineage masters have passed down to us, and do my best to transmit them to everyone. This is the intention I have. Today we will continue discussing the content of the Sigalovada Sutra. As for the Sigalovada Sutra, in fact it is a Dharma teaching, specifically intended for the human and heavenly vehicle. However, as we meticulously study its content, we consistently find that its substance is truly excellent and remarkably beneficial. Especially for people in our present era, such a Buddhist scripture is very much needed. As for the specific reasons, we will thoroughly understand them in detail below. And everyone will also become clear about this in the process of receiving it. So we have a saying that goes, the so-called Dharma is like nectar. No matter when or where you partake of it, it brings great and immeasurable benefit to both body and mind. Whenever we truly need to utilize it, it consistently proves to be exceptionally good and remarkably effective. It is also due to our deep and intricate karmic connection, a bond that has brought us together, that we are all gathered here in this Dharma hall to jointly and wholeheartedly enjoy the exquisite taste of the Mahayana and common vehicle's wondrous and enlightening Dharma. This convergence of circumstances is also a particularly auspicious condition. This morning, when I got up, I took a look at the great Amitabha Sutra. Actually, it should be the Infinite Life Sutra, because I've also previously taught this subject. Today, I discovered a truly excellent Tibetan Dharma text. As I was reading through its sacred pages, when I eventually reached the very end of the text, there was a verse in the Tibetan version.
There
was indeed such a verse. Later, I carefully compared it with the Chinese Infinite Life Sutra that we had previously studied in detail. It seemed there were some subtle yet distinct differences. The precise meaning in Tibetan is, it is rare for a Buddha to appear in the world, rare to hear the true Dharma, and rare to obtain a human body. Later, I also reflected on it very carefully and deeply myself, just as we had discussed in detail the day before yesterday. Our greatly compassionate and enlightened teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha, coming to this world, this human realm, is an event of extraordinary rarity and profound significance. The Buddha expounded the 84,000 Dharma teachings and turned the Dharma wheel 3 times, which is also extremely rare. Even though all these conditions are present, among the vast and boundless sea of people, for us to encounter such authentic Dharma, and to obtain this precious human life with leisure and opportunity is even rarer. So it is not just that we are merely promoting this message to everyone with our words. If we speak truly from the very bottom of our hearts, for us to genuinely encounter such precious Dharma in this very life is truly and indeed extremely rare and exceptional. Moreover, such opportunities do not last forever. Perhaps for me, the opportunity to teach the Dharma is also only a part of this lifetime, and it is the same for all of you. For you, listening to the Mahayana Dharma may last 10 years, maybe 8 years, or perhaps just 1 or 2 short years. Everyone's individual situation is truly different. Therefore, when we attentively listen to the Dharma, we should always endeavor to receive it with a truly joyful and open heart. This is extremely important. If we truly lack a joyful and contented heart, then even the most profound esoteric or exoteric teachings will not bring great and lasting benefit to our mental continuum. Just like in the Buddha's Great Compassion Sutra, it exists both in Chinese and in Tibetan texts. The Great Compassion Sutra also mentions this. If the vessel for the Dharma has faith, then one should transmit profound teachings to them, as it will be beneficial for them. If this vessel not only lacks faith, but even during the process of truly listening, often receives the profound teachings with a critical fault-finding attitude and repeatedly develops incorrect or wrong views, then there will be absolutely no spiritual benefit for them from these sacred teachings. In such cases, the precious teachings should not be given to them. Therefore, when we listen to the Dharma, we must first examine our own mind streams. Do we truly have a genuine interest in the Dharma? Do we possess unwavering faith? If you genuinely and truly have absolutely no interest at all, then there is no way for us to force you. Even if we tried, we couldn't force it. Because everyone present here today, no matter how many people there are, is here voluntarily. No one has explicitly required anyone to listen to our message, nor have we employed any other deliberate means or methods to purposefully persuade every individual to lend their ear and pay attention. There is no such situation. In this way, you should also carefully examine yourself. If your faith is truly insufficient, then you can temporarily choose not to listen. Because among some of the Buddha's disciples, while the Buddha was teaching, some people would simply stand up and leave, and the Buddha later said, "Well done, indeed, well done." Such behavior is also considered entirely correct. You have not developed wrong views, nor have you engaged in any other negative actions. And it is also good if you choose not to accept it yourself, because Buddhism fully supports our personal choices. So, what are we talking about today? Let me continue then with our discussion. This is roughly what I need to mention. So, what exactly did we discuss and cover during the last class? It was that the Buddha told the elder son, listen carefully, and reflect on it well. I can explain it to you. We stopped at this point last time. Because the Buddha said that it is not just about the 6 directions prostration, there are even other meanings within Buddhism. This aroused Shansheng's interest. He was also willing to listen in front of the Buddha. At this time, Shansheng said to the Buddha, "Indeed, I am eager and willing to hear." Shansheng said this to the Buddha, "Indeed means good, I am willing to listen." Lasso. The character le can be pronounced as yue or yao. Both are acceptable. I am very happy about it, and I am quite enthusiastic for this particular pronunciation. There are indeed different variations. Yesterday, when we talked about Vulture Peak Gridrakuta, many people contacted me through different channels saying, "Oh, Khenpo, you mispronounced it today, you mispronounced it." Actually, I didn't mispronounce it, did I? You can also look up some pronunciation methods from the Tang Dynasty. And if you check on Baidu as well, although you can't find that Q in the dictionary, actually its meaning bears a striking resemblance to the ku found within the word kulong, which specifically denotes a cave or a hole. It is also pronounced in precisely the same manner. Moreover, I observed that in both the ancient languages of Pali and Sanskrit, the name of this mountain also ends with kuta, so in this case it shouldn't be wrong. Of course, sometimes I do make mistakes in pronunciation. Sometimes I don't recognize certain characters because I haven't read enough books, unlike some people among us who have spent their whole lives reading books. When I was a young man, around the age of 16 or 17 years old, I was still living high up in the remote mountains, wearing a thick sheepskin coat and diligently holding a sturdy rope to herd the large yaks. And I basically never washed my hair. When it rained, I usually didn't use any raincoat because my hair was like this. It worked like an umbrella. I was a barefoot shepherd boy, living a simple life in the rugged. Later, when I embarked on my studies, it was a rather special and transformative time back then. basically during a period when many social and political movements were actively happening across the region and beyond. That day, I went to the school and said, "You will basically continue to get up at 6 in the early morning to study and basically keep on reading throughout all day until just about before 10 at night. But in the end, your exam results are still really, really poor." I asked, "Why is that?" Back then, we were almost always just playing every day and fighting all the time, but we still managed to learn a few words. How could it be like this for you all? So in our era, it really was like that. If we have mispronounced a few characters, I sincerely hope that you can be understanding about it because of the surrounding environment and because of our artificial intelligence, because of the challenging times and for many, many other significant and diverse reasons. In other words, we simply just loved to play, and unfortunately, we didn't have a particularly supportive family environment for serious studying either, including my own immediate family, my beloved parents and dear siblings. None of them could read any characters at all whatsoever. When I got home, no one told me to read books, do homework. No one ever said anything like that. So perhaps it primarily comes down to the significant differences in family backgrounds and upbringings. I don't know how to read this character. Maybe it has two meanings. It means that I am willing to listen and learn. I am very happy to listen to the Buddha's teachings. He was a Brahmin and also belonged to another religious sect, but he was also willing to do so. Sometimes we really need to open our minds a bit more. As for some Buddhists, for example, when listening to a certain Lama's teachings, or when they are receiving some worldly knowledge, they feel especially afraid, wondering if they can truly accept it. Actually, it's not that scary. Sometimes learning about certain worldly knowledge, including worldly knowledge and some principles from other religions, can be very helpful and beneficial to oneself. Of course, you still need to possess a truly solid foundation of wisdom. If you don't have stable and unwavering wisdom, it's very likely that you'll be swayed by other kinds of knowledge and then immediately shift your focus completely elsewhere. That possibility does indeed exist. Next, the Buddha then told Shansheng, if you are an elder or the son of an elder, then you should understand the 4 types of fettering karma. As for the 4 types of fettering karma, I'll explain them later. Do not commit evil deeds in 4 situations. In other words, it means not committing evil actions with 4 kinds of mindsets. And then, you should also be able to recognize the 6 ways of losing wealth, the 6 kinds of activities that lead to loss of wealth. Actually, regarding the 4 types of fettering karma we mentioned earlier, in Buddhism we often talk about the 4 major offenses: killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and lying. Here, fettering means bondage, which keeps us bound in samsara, and the karma that prevents us from attaining liberation is called the 4 binding karmas. As for the 4 situations, they refer to 4 kinds of mindsets. Normally, we commonly refer to greed, anger, and ignorance, and here, fear is also added to these 3. This will be further explained below. Later, we will discuss the 6 types of actions that lead to financial loss. The Buddha told Shansheng that if elders and the sons of elders abstain from the 4 kinds of evil deeds and also pay due respect to the 6 cardinal directions. Actually, regarding the 4 kinds of evil deeds, they can refer to greed, anger, and ignorance, as mentioned previously above. Or they can also refer to killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and lying, if one abstains from these 4 kinds of evil deeds, and as we will discuss below, pays respect to the 6 directions. In this present life, one will also attain goodness, accumulate virtuous roots, and experience profound happiness. And in future lives, one will also receive excellent good results and positive karmic rewards. One will attain supreme and ultimate happiness. Thus, the foundation is established both in this life and in future lives. Here, the phrase foundation in this life, foundation in future lives, does not appear in other versions. In many versions, this following section of text is missing. But the general meaning is that if one practices in this particular way, eliminating the 4 kinds of evil deeds and respectfully treating the 6 directions, in fact, goodness in this present life ultimately leads to goodness in future lives. Moreover, our foundation in this life, when we talk about foundation, it refers to spiritual faculties in Buddhism, such as faith, diligence, wisdom, and concentration. These faculties too become solid and stable. So in this life, one's foundation can be very strong. Then in their future lives, those individuals who practice virtuous deeds in this present life, and regardless of whether it is their diligence or wisdom, these foundations will also be excellent. Perhaps this is a reasonable way to interpret it, because there is no available Tibetan reference, nor are there any other comprehensive commentaries to refer to. Some individual sources, even if they do exist, do not discuss it according to this particular translation. It is simply not explained in this current version. Moreover, such people are not only well off in future lives, but also in the present life, in this very lifetime, with truly immediate and tangible results. They will also receive much well-deserved praise and recognition from wise and discerning people. Sometimes, when we conduct ourselves well, the eminent monks and great masters around us, as well as our cherished friends and beloved family, and other truly like-minded individuals, will often praise and commend us as well. If our own personal behavior is rather poor, then the people all around us will constantly gossip about us and criticize us and our every move, or frequently slander you. This is not only true for us humans. Even the gods in the heavenly realms often praise and admire those who do good deeds, while those who do evil are also very often rebuked and criticized by them. It is indeed like this. Now here it says, attain the 31st fruit, but it is possible that attain the 31st fruit might actually be a typographical error. In the Qianlong Tripitaka, it is written as attain the first worldly fruit, meaning to attain the very best fruit or the highest possible attainment in this world. As for this 31st fruit, it is indeed not very clear at all. It should be considered a typographical error. It should correctly be attain the first worldly fruit, which signifies the foremost and most significant fruit or achievement in the entire world. It seems that in the Japanese translation, it is also rendered as attain the first worldly fruit. In the English version and some other versions, these words are not present. So, as mentioned earlier, 31st fruit is probably incorrect. The meaning is that one receives the praise of the wise in the world, and moreover, in this world, one also attains the highest fruit or attainment. Because those individuals who perform truly virtuous deeds in this present life should also, in this very life, receive excellent and abundant worldly rewards, whether it be extended longevity, wealth, or other forms of prosperity, or dignified and attractive appearance. Many wonderful worldly fruits are also naturally obtained. When people are alive in this present life, many excellent worldly results will naturally manifest. Then after the body deteriorates and life ends, one can be reborn in the heavenly realms. As our human bodies, which are composed of the 4 fundamental elements, gradually decay and undergo a process of disintegration, after death, most beings are reborn in the blissful heavenly realms, or are reborn among human beings in fortunate and auspicious realms, and will not fall into the suffering 3 lower realms of hell, hungry ghosts, or animals. This is truly very extremely important. This is a simple transitional phrase. At that moment, the Buddha thoughtfully told the young youth Shansheng this. Next, we will now meticulously begin to thoroughly discuss the 4 types of fettering behaviors and the 4 corresponding types of intentions that were mentioned above. We need to further explain this principle.
Next, we will talk about, as Buddhists, we are all very clear about the fundamental precepts of not killing, not stealing, avoiding sexual misconduct, and refraining from lying. The acts of killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and lying, some people might perhaps think, I've heard this countless times, there's nothing new to say about it. Let's just finish this quickly today, but I probably won't do that. I insist on explaining this in much greater detail. Why is that precisely the case? The fundamental reason for this is quite clear. On one hand, many of us who identify as Buddhists nowadays should also gain an understanding of something. And what is that? It's the fact that many people in the secular world today perceive some of the precepts, codes of conduct, and regulations of our Buddhist faith as being divergent from the conventional accepted norms and worldly perspectives. At such times, how exactly should we Buddhists appropriately adapt to the ever-changing world around us? Our teacher, Shakyamuni Buddha, said, "When worldly people argue with me, I do not argue with them at all. Instead, I simply go along with the world." He too always adapted himself to the ways of the world. So if we are to truly go along with the world, then in exactly what way should we then do so? First, we need to understand, just as we discussed a couple of days ago, the intricate relationship between religion and morality. So what we are going to be talking about today, one is ethical morality. This ethical word, it is equivalent to the crimes of killing, stealing, adultery, and lying that we are talking about now. The following words speak about greed, anger, ignorance, and fear. It is psychological morality, ethics, and current religious teachings. Is there any conflict? There is actually no fundamental conflict whatsoever. Now, we say we absolutely cannot kill or steal, we must not lie, and we must not commit adultery. Many people mistakenly think this is something only Buddhists do, and I wouldn't dare to even attempt such practices. If I were to become a Buddhist and had to abstain from all killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and lying, then that's not right. They think this is a unique practice of Buddhists, that it's a unique practice of religious people. But that's actually not the case at all in reality. We should say that this kind of morality is something that every human being, regardless of their background, should value and attach great importance to. They are not defined or limited by any specific religious affiliations or labels. What we now refer to this as is a set of fundamental human values that are, by their very nature, non-religious. So when we talk about non-religious, basic human values, no matter what kind of person you are, whether you have faith or not, basically everyone can accept them. So today, when we talk here about refraining from killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and lying, in fact, in a certain sense, we're not just saying that in Buddhism you cannot kill any living being, you cannot steal anything from anyone, and you certainly cannot commit adultery or engage in any illicit sexual conduct whatsoever. When we put it that way, many people think, well, in Buddhism, people don't even dare to do these things. Even people who are afraid to kill wouldn't dare to come in. People who are afraid to kill also wouldn't dare to enter Buddhism. What's the reason for this? They feel that Buddhism is very intimidating. But actually, that's not entirely the case. It's just like what we previously talked about earlier, as we discussed. On the surface, many religions still indeed have quite a certain appeal. Some religions across various cultures and throughout history have embraced and developed all kinds of exotic and distinctive styles. For example, Tibetan Buddhism possesses several truly compelling and attractive aspects that genuinely draw people in. Holding the Vajra bells and the resonant hand drums, and even blowing the haunting human bone trumpets. There are so many people who are really, well, especially the Westerners, they tend to be particularly keen on it. In this sense, Tibetan Buddhism is very appealing. This situation does exist. A lot of people who really don't understand any of the content hold really big drums and go boom, boom, boom. They truly, truly love it. This is also a significant part of what truly attracts them. But at the most fundamental and essential level, what exactly is its core essence? It's profoundly about understanding the intricate concepts of ethics and morality. The very foundation of ethics and morality, in fact, the profound and timeless principles we extensively talk about in Buddhism. These fundamental principles should inherently and seamlessly align with the ordinary, universally accepted, and basic values that are inherent to all of humanity. With the beliefs held by the general public and many people, they are completely consistent. If we truly understand this well, then whether it's in certain situations or in promoting the Dharma, we should consistently advocate for genuine kindness towards everyone and actively promote these inherently better values. In doing so, we might not even need to explicitly mention any specific religion at all. Because as soon as religion is brought up, since people who believe in religion In the whole world, it is truly the majority, but each religion also has some exclusivity within itself. As Buddhists, we should actually consider both aspects. If we are entirely a Buddhist group, then we can effectively carry out Buddhist rituals, Buddhist theories, and Buddhist practices. And even some truly unique and distinctive Buddhist behaviors, of course, they can be implemented. However, if our group or community is not inclined towards such expressions, there is absolutely no compelling need or obligation for us to insist on displaying certain specific rituals in front of them. Because some people genuinely appreciate these established rituals, but others are very much averse to them. This is especially true for those individuals who strongly emphasize rigorous academic pursuits, even if we just hold simple prayer beads. Sometimes when I go to certain schools and also see some professors who are quite particularly and noticeably biased, during the process of communicating with them, he keeps looking at my prayer beads. Sometimes I deliberately hide them away so that he does not develop any wrong views. Other times I intentionally keep fiddling with them right in front of him, making a distinct clicking sound. That makes him pay even more attention, and he gets really unhappy. When he's unhappy, I even deliberately make a distinct sound with them too. But actually, doing this isn't skillful or good. There are times when people have a rebellious mentality. No matter what, it is not a given that I'll attend this particular university in the future. So what makes this professor so exceptional anyway? Sometimes I have this kind of discriminating thought, deliberately going against him, when he's already not feeling comfortable. I even want to make him feel a bit more uncomfortable and uneasy. I've certainly done that as well on occasion. Honestly, that's probably not very good either. But sometimes if we look at it, whether it's religious rituals or certain special behaviors, in various different situations and circumstances, we genuinely need to skillfully employ appropriate and effective means. Just yesterday we were discussing and talking about the mother representing the perfection of wisdom and the father the perfection of skillful means. When one possesses inner wisdom, they are then capable of engaging in actions that are skillful and strategic. Furthermore, this skillful means requires adaptability and flexibility. It is never rigid or inflexible, just stubbornly staying there, never changing anything. That's not very reasonable at all. So, whether we are diligently practicing or actively spreading the Dharma, we should carefully approach it from multiple different angles in various and diverse dimensions. In the past, our precious and revered guru often used an ancient saying from our Tibetan language, a language deeply rooted in our culture and history. In Tibetan traditions, it is said that you should blow with your mouth and also use a leather bellows to blow air. For example, when making a fire, on one hand you blow with your mouth, and on the other hand, in ancient times, people used a fire-blowing tube to blow air. As long as you can get the fire going, both methods are fine. You need both approaches. You need to use both wisdom and skillful means. Both are necessary. So, as practitioners, whether we are spreading the Dharma or practicing ourselves, both aspects are very important. For example, we should try our best to attend teachings. If you find yourself genuinely unable to comprehend the content, then you should recite a mantra. If the recitation of the mantra also begins to make you feel drowsy, then read the scriptures instead. If reciting scriptures isn't particularly effective at that time either, then generate a good motivation. There are many approaches. It's not that we only do one thing. If we were to only do one single thing, it might indeed succeed. But if that particular approach doesn't work out as planned, then you might find yourself with absolutely nothing else substantial to truly rely upon. So, according to some of our long-standing traditions, it's not about practicing one method. Focusing on one practice has its benefits, as you can go deeper into it. But on the other hand, there are also some risks. For example, among these, let's say I meditate every day, but if I practice incorrectly and have nothing else, not reciting scriptures, not generating motivation, then the only thing left is like someone who is extremely fond of one person. And once that person leaves the premises completely, they feel as if the very sky has completely collapsed and the earth has truly cracked open. It feels like the entire world is utterly gone. This can indeed happen. So, if we have a variety of beneficial practices, it is truly very meaningful. Therefore, I hope that practitioners, on one hand, study and contemplate diligently and practice earnestly, and on the other hand, recite more mantras. This includes our disciples at Larungar. In the past, it was like this. Generally, each person basically, when the master was alive, everyone would vow to recite 100 million mantras. Many people did this. There were almost none who didn't recite 100 million. But generation after generation, now, after some significant amount of time has passed, I see that many young lamas and nuns at Larungar, it would seem that people are holding their prayer beads less and less often. At an academic meeting last year, I also consistently kept advocating for this particular point. In our generation in the past, no matter where each single person went, they were always reciting mantras constantly. Because everyone had their own Yida mantra, so many sacred mantras, and whenever there was some free time available, they would continuously keep reciting them. As for the current situation, I'm not particularly clear about it. But for all of us who are here, while diligently studying and contemplating the profound teachings, we should also recite sacred mantras, read the Holy Scriptures, and participate in voluntary work. We should truly strengthen our spiritual practice in many important aspects. Perhaps there should also be some motivation for each individual. Don't let every single day be a kind of muddled, indifferent, or even stagnant state. This particular kind of state is certainly not very good. If you consistently remain in a state of complete inaction, then that's not ideal. We should practice diligently. So what did we talk about today? We talked about what we usually refer to as killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and lying. This was also discussed here. So I'll go over it with everyone again. The first is to know the 4 binding actions. First is killing. Second is stealing. Third is sexual misconduct. Perhaps yi is the same as the yi in indulgence or something quite similar, but it can be pronounced in this particular way as well. Yin yi specifically refers to sexual misconduct, meaning improper sexual behavior. The 4th binding action is lying. These 4 are collectively called the binding actions. First, the act of killing. Actually, these 4 distinct and significant types of actions are explicitly mentioned and thoroughly discussed within the revered and extensive Buddhist scripture known as the Mahasamnipata Sutra. It explicitly states that at that particular time, King Bimbisara had such specific requirements in his national laws. Once upon a time, he spoke directly to the Buddha, to the revered world-honored one, the enlightened teacher, and he said, "What laws does my country currently have in place?" First, those individuals who commit murder and other serious crimes, and those who steal 5 coins or more. At that time, 5 coins in India, this refers to theft, those who tell major lies, and, as previously mentioned and emphasized, those individuals who commit serious sexual misconduct. If any of these 4 grave offenses were committed, the person would absolutely not be allowed to continue to live, which probably meant the death penalty at that time. Then the Buddha also said at that time, "For my Buddhist followers, if they commit any of these 4 offenses in the future, it is also considered a grave sin." Actually, in our Buddhist tradition, we often find the so-called 4 precepts, which were established more than 2,500 years ago, are fundamental principles. Regardless of whether you have formally taken refuge, violating these precepts is still universally considered a significant sin. And more than 2,500 years ago, the Buddha delivered this teaching in accordance with a number of King Bimbisara's royal edicts. And while this might appear to be a very ancient approach, it is, in fact, a reflection of the basic human morality we still recognize and uphold in the present day, a point that I frequently share with people, regardless of which country I find myself in. If one can truly uphold these, at the very least, in this particular life, it is true that most people would not ultimately end up in prison, thankfully. And in the next life, you also absolutely will not fall into the suffering realms of hell. This is an extremely crucial and profoundly significant matter. First, regarding the act of killing, killing fundamentally means intentionally taking away the precious life of another living being. From the perspective of the precepts, it refers to killing people. From the profound perspective of the inherent value of all life, it fundamentally means the cessation or taking of the life of any other sentient being. As devoted Buddhists, we are especially called upon to place an even greater and more profound importance on diligently protecting and preserving the precious lives of all other living beings. We should not kill sentient beings. Among all of the Buddha's precepts, this is the most paramount, yet it is a truly horrifying reality that some people continue to take lives through a variety of different means, which demonstrates a profound and frightening contradiction where our hopes and our behaviors appear to be fundamentally at odds with one another, heading in completely opposite directions. Originally, we truly wish for longevity, and we wish to obtain happiness, but trying to achieve these through killing is truly and utterly impossible. For example, in the past, the esteemed Master Lianqi wrote extensively about this profound subject in his essay on abstaining from killing and releasing life. He said that because of giving birth and raising life, one must not kill. One must not kill when giving birth to children, a truly sacred and joyous occasion. One must not kill when celebrating a birthday, a special time for reflection and happiness. One must not kill at the solemn time of death, nor at the auspicious and celebratory events of weddings. Also, one must not kill when hosting banquets or inviting cherished guests, as these are occasions for hospitality and peace. One must not kill during rituals or sacrifices. Of course, we have already discussed each of these in detail earlier, but I will not elaborate on them here. Anything that people may consider very important in life, such as celebrating important birthdays or getting happily married and embarking on a new life together, or when some parents pass away. At these times, people feel these days are very significant. But in fact, if you kill at such times, indeed, it is even worse for them, and it is also even worse for yourself in the long run. In the past, the Buddha also said in the Dhammapada Parable Sutra, seeking blessings through killing only drives blessings further away. If you hope to gain happiness through killing, then that is the most unrealistic thing. Whether it's killing sheep or pigs, for example, the sin is as great as Mount Sumeru, but the blessing is not even as small as a mustard seed. This is also what the Buddha taught. There are many ancient rituals involving various forms of sacrifices. For example, in countries like India and Nepal, because of their deeply held religious beliefs, there are numerous and diverse sacrificial practices. But in reality, this is a very negative and indeed quite problematic behavior. Perhaps many of our own deeply ingrained traditions also include such practices and customs. When we thoroughly discussed the Sutra of Filial Piety last year, we specifically noted that the Han people also placed very great importance on elaborate rituals and significant sacrifices. As for these ancient sacrificial rituals, some involved the solemn act of using animals as sacred offerings. This was indeed the common practice in very ancient times. Including during the Qingming festival, even now in some places, there may still be animal slaughter. It seems that recently people have been observing that the day after tomorrow, right? April 5th. I think whether it's for entertaining guests or celebrating festivals, I sincerely hope that people will always refrain from killing any living beings. Nowadays, some people might choose to burn joss paper outside, but burning joss paper is also quite dangerous and poses certain risks. Now, many contemporary Buddhists do not pay much attention to this practice anymore. When visiting graves, you must be especially careful at this particular time, exercising due caution. Wasn't there a very recent forest fire in Liangshan? About 30 people indeed perished, didn't they? It's truly quite pitiful and profoundly frightening to consider. When such a fire breaks out, sometimes it's because of rituals, including smoke offerings. Some of our Dharma friends also like to do smoke offerings. Of course, smoke offerings have merit, and they are beneficial to spirits and deities, but you shouldn't do things daily, otherwise at your doorstep. The fire can be very dangerous. Sometimes, for example, when you're burning food here for an offering, and suddenly a strong gust of wind comes, the fire can immediately and rapidly spread to other nearby places, potentially causing significant damage and posing a serious threat. That's precisely how the fire tragically broke out for them this time as well. In the past, there was also this kind of saying among the people in Tibet. When a fire occurs, there is a kind of spirit or deity within the fire. This spirit can suddenly transform into something else. For example, consider a situation when a tree is actively burning. Suddenly there's a pop sound, and then a very large and intense spark flies swiftly over to the imposing mountain situated directly across the way, and subsequently the entire vast mountain range here can potentially catch fire, leading to widespread conflagration. So on the one hand, as devout Buddhists, we still profoundly hope that when performing these rituals, I've seen in some videos that in cities there are large-scale offerings, I don't know where they come from, including some botanical gardens and parks, and even on top of some high-rise buildings. All sorts of things are being burned there. This is still very dangerous. Some of these behaviors may indeed exist in certain places, but when a fire truly breaks out, it's something ordinary people simply cannot and absolutely will not accept. And when it comes to offering lamps, some Dharma friends are also especially enthusiastic and very dedicated to their practice. I have also spoken before about the merits of offering lamps. So ever since then, many people have started doing it. But some Dharma friends really have absolutely no concept of fire prevention whatsoever, which is especially dangerous. Some will say, it's perfectly fine, the lamp holder has already been carefully placed here. Let it be, but it's hard to articulate. For example, here at Larungar, I am indeed very worried about this situation. Except for a type of lamp holder we have in Tibet, there are no others available, which is completely sealed, and only lets out a little bit of smoke inside. Other than that, there aren't any other types of lamp holders like this. Unless it's that kind. Generally speaking, there are some others. If you put a lamp holder in our wooden houses, perhaps after you have been away for a little while, a small curious mouse might just happen to come by, and with a sudden loud bang, it accidentally knocks over the lamp holder. Once it's knocked over, the oil and fire will immediately ignite. It's truly quite difficult to precisely say what exactly could potentially happen then. So, some time ago, I also asked everyone through other channels that if you wish to offer lamps, please kindly place them within our designated public lamp holders, which are available in all the places for lamas and jomos. Just put them there, not at home. Otherwise, all our houses here are made of wood, and everything is flammable, which is very dangerous. This isn't just an issue in our area. Nowadays, there are many high-rise buildings. And if you look at the fire in the US last year, so many homes were completely burned down, and in the end, only one single house was left standing. This particular house, according to some local American media outlets, belonged to a family who practiced Avalokiteshvara. Many places in Taiwan reported on this, and it was covered by media outlets. But we don't really know if that's actually the case. I'm not particularly sure myself, but it did seem quite rare indeed, judging from the photos. It's also said that the photos were from earlier times, and there are different versions of the story. We won't look into it further. It was the blessing of the three jewels. This can happen. Regardless reason, as practitioners, sometimes we truly lack sufficient awareness of protection in this regard. It's quite possible, especially in large bustling cities. I've seen some lay practitioners offering lamps in the Buddhist hall as well. You really need to pay very special attention to these important aspects. I don't know, perhaps in some places nowadays there are no mice at all. It's certainly a bit better if there are no mice, but you never truly know what might happen in the future. When we offer lamps, sometimes you might not even realize it, but in the oil and gas industry, inside the lamp wick, sometimes the wick can explode with a pop sound. At that moment, a small flame can fly off to other places. If there are flammable materials there, something like that could potentially happen. So in today's talk, perhaps I've turned off a lot of oil lamps, but regardless of that, I'm speaking from the perspective of being responsible for the lives and property of many sentient beings. If a fire breaks out because of our lamp offerings, how many people could potentially be harmed? In the Western world, it's often said that a single cigarette butt can indeed burn down a whole mountain. So if we are not extremely careful, in a dense forest just the other day, I personally went to visit a local school, and quite near that very school, they were also doing precisely the same thing there. Actually, some of us, how should I put it, some people living in urban cities simply don't fully understand. They thoughtlessly put a large steel stove directly under the dense forest and then carelessly stack a significant amount of firewood right next to it. I said, "What exactly are you doing? That's incredibly dangerous." Then the volunteer kindly said, "These dedicated workers are working very, very hard. Let them warm themselves by the fire. They're very tired. They're working so hard." I said, "Their fatigue isn't the most important thing. If this whole mountain catches fire, it's extremely dangerous. how many living beings would be killed then? Look at what happens when we have a fire. Was it last year or the year before? There was a devastating forest fire in the region of Tibet. Afterwards, all of the cattle and sheep that were inside the affected area, all the corpses of living beings, when they were finally revealed, it was truly terrifying. So as devout Buddhists, we must consider this. Our own personal merit is important. Practices such as smoke offerings and lamp offerings are indeed very significant and hold considerable value. However, in this modern era, there are also other more convenient and accessible methods available. It is absolutely crucial that we do not, under any circumstances, endanger or compromise the fundamental public order and societal harmony within our communities. Nor should we harm our own or others' homes, property, or lives. Otherwise, this is very dangerous. Some people are a bit dissatisfied, saying all of our lamps have been completely confiscated. They were confiscated by the building's caretaker. It's not that the caretaker actually confiscated them. The caretaker is diligently trying to protect you and your belongings. The primary intention here is to protect you from the act of killing, isn't that right? Because the act of refraining from killing truly brings about great and profound merit. In our sacred Ksitigarbha Ten Wheels Mahayana Sutra, there is indeed a significant passage that clearly states, "By staying away from killing, both humans and gods will love you. In every lifetime you will enjoy longevity and cultivate virtuous deeds without harm." That's precisely how it is explained. If we consistently refrain from killing, whether among all humans or even among the gods, everyone will undoubtedly like you, and in every single lifetime you will certainly gain longevity. When you practice virtuous deeds, there will be no harm at all. Some people, when practicing virtuous deeds, often encounter all kinds of obstacles and can't continue their practice. What is the reason for this? It's because in the past we didn't do a good job of protecting sentient beings. There is also a story in the Buddhist scriptures. In the Transmission of the Dharma Treasury Cause and Condition Sutra, it is stated about an Indian, and in it says there was a truly venerable and highly respected individual named Venerable Bakula. This Venerable Bakula, in the distant past, conscientiously took upon himself the sacred precept of not killing, and he also generously offered essential medicine to some monks who were in need of such compassionate assistance. Because of this reason, he did not get sick for many lifetimes, an exceptionally long and remarkable period. By the time of the Buddha, it seems that before he was 80 or 90 years old, he had already experienced an extraordinary existence. He had never throughout his entire life taken any form of medicine, nor had he ever experienced the misfortune of falling ill with any sickness or ailment. Born into a uniquely challenging family dynamic, he was, as it appears, raised from a very young age by his stepmother, a woman who harbored such a profound and unrelenting animosity toward him that she began to take his life. First, she tried to boil him in a large pot, scalding him severely with intensely boiling water. Despite all her attempts to take his life throughout his childhood, he miraculously survived. Then she put him into blazing flames. But he was not burned to death either, miraculously surviving the intense flames. Then, in a subsequent attempt, she threw him into the raging river, but the powerful currents did not wash him away. Finally, in a desperate last effort, she tried to have him eaten by ferocious, man-eating fish. But he still did not die. She even tried to cut his body with various sharp and powerful weapons, but still could not manage to kill him at all, despite her efforts. So, no matter what was done, he simply would not die. Later, he lived an especially long life. In Buddhism, he is said to be the foremost in terms of longevity. You all probably clearly remember this, right? We have certainly talked about this before. So, in our present world, there are some people who just absolutely won't die, no matter what challenging circumstances or events happen around them. Even in car accidents, they survive. No matter what they encounter, they don't die. Last year, I think there was a Canadian man who survived a mass shooting in the United States where many people died. Later, when he went to Canada, he was also caught in a terrorist shooting there, but still survived. A lot of people often wondered, how is it that this particular person just never seems to die? So for some of us, what is the reason for longevity? It's because in the past, we released living beings or refrained from killing, reasons like these. Some people, on the other hand, die very quickly. Even a slight mishap can be fatal for them. Their health deteriorates immediately. Today it's a persistent headache, tomorrow it's an aching toothache, then it's a sharp chest pain. Everything just hurts, hurts, hurts. Every single day something is consistently wrong here or there, causing discomfort. This shows that we have harmed many sentient beings in the past. This is the cause and effect of karma. Therefore, we should try our best to release living beings. If the conditions and circumstances for releasing living beings really aren't available, it seems that nowadays the conditions for releasing living beings are getting worse and worse. But we should still endeavor to do it as much as possible. When releasing living beings, we absolutely shouldn't use it for all kinds of publicity or promotion. If the circumstances and conditions for releasing living beings are truly insufficient, then being vegetarian yourself, if more and more people become vegetarian, this is actually also a form of releasing living beings. But now, in all our cities, it seems that opening vegetarian restaurants sometimes doesn't do well in business. In the end, they frequently all end up closing down, which is a truly unfortunate outcome. We feel it's a bit of a pity to see these establishments, which often promote healthy eating, cease their operations. If more and more people become vegetarian, there will be many significant and notable changes in the market. This is also a very effective and practical method. Buddhists in particular pay much more attention to vegetarian restaurants. Actually, it's not just a matter of Buddhist faith alone, but also a broader consideration. Many people just do it for the environmental reasons, for significant health reasons, for compelling reasons of human morality, and for the crucial sake of protecting animals. There are indeed many important reasons to start actively promoting vegetarianism. Over the past few years, we have also included some elaborate and delicious vegetarian banquets. This generous offering is also a significant form of reward for their efforts and dedication. This can also be considered a profound and meaningful kind of life release, demonstrating compassion. We sincerely hope that some of the things we've talked about before will continue to be carried on and further developed. That's the first important point. Second, the act of theft, which is essentially stealing, is something that everyone clearly understands and recognizes. If you have stolen in the past, you will likely be poor in this current life. In this particular life, you will be reborn into a remarkably poor and humble family. If we did not indeed steal in the past, then we would also be reborn into a very wealthy family. The Kshitigarbha 10 Wheels Mahayana Sutra also explicitly says, by upholding the sacred precept against stealing, one is always born into great wealth. That is to say, if we upheld the precept against stealing in the past, in this very life we would be reborn into a particularly wealthy family. Nowadays, many young people complain about their parents, wondering why they aren't like someone else, why their parents are so poor. They can't accept it. But in fact, they themselves have been stealing in their past lives. So when you come into this world, you are born into such a truly poor family. You really shouldn't blame your parents. Instead, you should genuinely blame yourself. You simply didn't cultivate sufficient merit properly in the past. However, these principles of cause and effect, some people may not really understand. No matter what, the practice of refraining from theft is a truly excellent form. However, since the precept of not stealing encompasses numerous different classifications, I will not elaborate on them in extensive detail here. Next, the third one, sexual misconduct. When it comes to sexual misconduct, we're talking about improper sexual behavior. Generally, those individuals who have engaged in sexual misconduct in their past lives will often have especially strong desires in this current life as well. If one commits sexual misconduct in this life, they will inevitably fall into the three lower realms, which are states of suffering. Most often they are reborn as creatures like chickens or ducks. Chickens and ducks are beings with an extremely strong sense of greed. People are frequently reborn among such creatures. Especially in contemporary times, there are also numerous serious diseases that are directly caused by various forms of sexual misconduct. This critically includes the widespread and devastating disease known as AIDS, which is also caused by impure and unethical behavior. I've seen in numerous news reports that nowadays college and high school students are unfortunately the hardest hit demographic groups, which is a very frightening and deeply concerning development, because now some young people are extensively using their mobile phones and are also influenced by certain aspects of Western culture, which is more open, even including homosexuality, and there are many immoral behaviors. As a result, universities everywhere are also quite deeply concerned about this significant issue. As Buddhists, we must consider these matters. We should definitely have the inherent ability to effectively restrain ourselves. That would certainly be somewhat better. Now, the fourth significant point is telling major outright lies. Generally, when it comes to major and significant lies, people who frequently and habitually lie have absolutely no credibility whatsoever in their spoken words and are therefore not trusted by others. Moreover, people People often think this is an inauspicious and untrustworthy person, and consequently, they do not trust them at all. Whether it's family or others, no one trusts them. They are even widely regarded as a very bad omen indeed. It's precisely what we often truly call a crow's mouth. Some Buddhist scriptures also say, it is said that when individuals who frequently engage in deceit are reborn as animals, they are often reincarnated as crows or owls. Some people assert that the vocalizations of an owl are quite pleasant to the ear, but it is also true that owls frequently tend to frighten other creatures. At night, they frequently and distinctly go woohoo, woohoo, woohoo. Many individuals genuinely don't particularly like to hear their rather distinctive calls. So nowadays, some people might indeed say, "Why don't you trust me? Why don't others trust them?" Actually, it's because they used to tell too many lies. Of course, people won't believe them. The Ekotara Agama Sutra also says, if a person lies, then in their next human life, their words will not be trusted, and they will be looked down upon by others. People who love to lie, even if they are reborn as humans, no one will believe what they say. Moreover, people will often bully, deceive, and belittle them. This is also a kind of karmic consequence, isn't it? These four are called the four kinds of evils, the four grave offenses. Everyone should, just as we discussed earlier, when it comes to the fundamental morals of humanity, these four principles are indeed important. Next, it thoroughly discusses what are these four primary sources. The first one is desire, which is associated with greed. The second is anger, the third is fear, and the fourth is ignorance. We have already discussed the concept of greed earlier. There are those individuals who are greedy for people, and there are also those who are greedy for material wealth. In the sacred Vinaya Sutra, it is explicitly stated, even those with immense wealth are insatiable in their greed. They find little happiness and much suffering. The truly wise can keep their distance. No matter how much material wealth one possesses, it can never truly satisfy, and the suffering only increases. So, truly wise people do not cling to such fleeting possessions. We should say that wealth is actually something quite negative. We can also see this nowadays. Many people are like this. There is a sutra that says desire gives rise to afflictions, desire gives rise to fear. Because of greed, afflictions arise. Because of greed, fear arises. If one can distance oneself from greed, then both fear and afflictions will disappear. The second is commonly called anger. Among the three poisons of greed, anger, and ignorance, this specifically refers to the mind of anger. Actually, everyone truly knows about this particular emotion of anger. It's because we are unhappy ourselves. Then we take it out on others and develop a mind of anger and hatred. When anger and hatred arise, the Buddhist scriptures say it results in an ugly and unpleasant appearance. If you harbor anger, your face will look especially unpleasant. Nowadays, many people hope to have a high level of attractiveness and want to look good. If you want to look good, it's best not to lose your temper often. Otherwise, people who frequently lose their temper usually don't look good. And in the next life, you'll look even worse. So if you want to look good, because when someone appears kind, even if they are not particularly good looking, they still provide a strong sense of security. So, if you frequently lose your temper, no matter how good looking you are, if you often lose your temper, that is truly not good. So, even if some people can't do many good deeds, they should at least try to control their anger and hatred. This is also very important. In the Mahaparinirvana Sutra, there's a teaching I really like. I've mentioned this before at other charity conferences as well. If you do not give rise to anger or hatred toward any sentient being and wish to share happiness with them, that is called true charity. What this means is, if you genuinely do not harbor any anger or deep-seated hatred toward any sentient being whatsoever, and are truly willing to generously share your happiness and well-being with them, then this profound act is indeed called the highest and most noble form of charity. We often say, I sincerely want to be a true philanthropist. But whether you can actually become a true and genuine philanthropist, that is quite uncertain. However, it's truly best not to lose your temper very often. Sometimes, when anger arises, it's truly very hard to control. It's like a powerful flood. Suddenly it just comes rushing in. But nowadays, most of our anger might actually be primarily caused by the media, making us act in ways that are quite out of character. That's also one of the primary reasons. The third significant factor is fear. Here, fear specifically means, earlier, everyone already has a clear understanding of greed and anger. But what exactly is this fear that we are discussing? It's often a lack of a fundamental sense of security. You find yourself unable to truly trust others and feel a pervasive sense of intense fear. You constantly worry and anxiously ponder, will this particular person ultimately deceive me or abandon me? When it comes to money, you wonder, will I use up my money? In the end, will I be left with nothing? You have a deep sense of distrust toward everyone. What is this called? It's called paranoia. Afraid that others will harm me, afraid that others will provoke me. Sometimes it seems like you hear all kinds of different voices. Nowadays, some individuals among us frequently experience vivid hallucinations and various auditory illusions. This phenomenon actually originates directly from within our own minds. In fact, this is a very frightening thing. Originally, there was nothing there at all. But because of our own current mental state, the Mahaparinirvana Sutra also explicitly states and says, from attachment, sorrow inevitably comes, and from attachment, fear also arises. If one is truly free from the binding chains of attachment, then what sorrow could possibly exist, and what fear could genuinely manifest? This means that the very act of forming attachments can indeed give rise to fear, and these attachments can similarly give rise to sorrow. If we are able to consciously let go of attachment, then there is genuinely nothing to fear or to be sorrowful about. Some of these feelings truly do arise from attachment. For example, you are especially attached to your own body and afraid of getting sick. Or you are particularly attached to a certain person and you fear losing this person. Or you place great importance on money, so you are afraid of not having any money. In this way, in the end, your entire mind becomes quite disturbed and your overall mental state becomes truly abnormal. That's precisely why some of us now, when we happen to hear or clearly see something, most of the time it's triggered by your own paranoia. This is something that many people are quite concerned about nowadays, so we need to strive to relax and let go of fear, accepting that whatever is destined to happen will in fact occur, and whatever is lost is simply gone. Should one find themselves without money, it is perfectly acceptable to embrace that reality, as even a life as a beggar can be an excellent means of guiding and saving sentient beings. However, moving on to our fourth point, ignorance is a condition that is also exceptionally serious and destructive. I won't explain ignorance any further. If the elders and the sons of elders commit evil based on these four things, there will certainly be a loss. This includes life, property, and so on. Next, the Buddha explains the above principles in verse form. This appears to be recorded within the concluding summary for the preceding four sections of the Madhyama Agama Sutra, where it is stated as follows. Killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and violating another's wife. This verse appears in the Madhyama Agama Sutra. You can look it up when the time comes. It's not here, but it seems to be in the Dharmagupta version, as mentioned earlier. Killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and violating another's wife, speaking untruths, or engaging in any form of dishonesty, these actions are certainly not praised or condoned by the wise. You can look this up yourselves later. The profound meaning is that actions such as killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and lying are actually not praised or condoned by those who possess true wisdom and understanding. That is indeed the crucial and fundamental point. This statement represents the initial and concise summary of the four fundamental bonds. This is found in the Madhyama Agama Sutra and in other texts, but not here. Next is the verse about the four unwholesome actions of the mind. The verse goes like this. Desire, anger, fear, and delusion, if one possesses these four qualities, as previously mentioned earlier, greed, anger, fear, and a deluded mind, if a person possesses these four qualities, then their reputation, their wealth, and their merit will begin to diminish day by day, and gradually they will be completely lost. It's just like the full moon on the 15th day, which slowly, as it reaches the 30th day, becomes almost invisible. So this is very important. What we usually call greed, anger, and delusion, here an additional element, fear, is included. If someone possesses all these and experiences them every day, even if they were once a famous person, it will be gone. So some practitioners are like this too. At the beginning, this person seems to have a good reputation and prestige, and is truly outstanding in every single aspect. But in the end, for various different reasons, they gradually end up like this. Then the Buddha told Shansheng, saying, if there are elders and the sons of elders who do not commit any evil deeds in these four specific and important areas of their lives, their merit will naturally and organically increase over time. The world-honored one, in a repetitive and emphatic manner, then proceeded to expound upon this gatha once again, and in it he defines a person as one who does not commit evil acts if they are free from four specific mental afflictions, namely greed, hatred, fear, and ignorance, further clarifying that this means a person whose mind does not habitually give rise to greed. Do not give rise to anger, do not give rise to fear, and do not give rise to ignorance, such people, their reputation, wealth, and merit will truly flourish and be recognized, will all continue to increase. It's like the waxing moon progressing from its initial appearance on the first day to its full illumination on the 15th day, becoming more and more full, more and more complete, until it is ultimately completely full. Therefore, as dedicated practitioners, we should strive as much as humanly possible to consistently move in the positive direction of the waxing moon. Of course, we can't say that whether it's the previous acts of killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, or lying, or greed, anger, ignorance, and fear. These things, as ordinary people, it's impossible not to commit them at all. Once you do commit them, you shouldn't think, I'm so terrible, there's no hope for me anymore. You shouldn't think like that. It's just that this is a fundamental moral baseline for humanity. Once you unfortunately cross this critical threshold, you absolutely need to continuously keep repenting for your actions and diligently keep making sincere efforts to rectify your mistakes and improve again. Because it's impossible not to make mistakes here. If you do make a mistake, nowadays some practitioners think, how could I develop feelings of anger? Or how could I have desires arising in my mind stream? That's so utterly frightening, so incredibly ridiculous, so completely foolish. Then they start to abuse themselves and their own well-being and punish themselves. If you do this, your practice may actually get worse and worse. So we should neither belittle nor look down upon the profound and essential precepts, for they are truly significant. But at the same time, we should also note to repentance. In this particular way, in terms of spiritual practice and cultivation, everyone will undoubtedly have hope. And even from a more worldly perspective, there is indeed hope as well. Therefore, the 4 profound methods we have just discussed above, which are truly essential, many people generally interpret them as psychological ethics. Greed, anger, and ignorance, plus the pervasive feeling of fear. This is a fundamental standard of psychological morality. As for the previous precepts of killing, stealing, sexual misconduct, and lying, these are standards of our ethical morality. If we can uphold these standards well, no matter which country you go to, wherever you are, your entire life, your physical body and your mind will gradually become more and more just like a beautifully waxing moon, steadily gaining profound happiness and true fulfillment. And attaining auspiciousness and good fortune, everything will go exactly as you wish. All right, that's all for today.
Bandhangara Padmasada Bandhangara Padmasada